All right, guys. Happy Tuesday. Very happy to have Jason Foster as my guest today on the Ravit Show. Jason is the founder and CEO at Cynozure, a data and analytics strategy company with a mission to create a better future for all through the open and positive use of data. And I'm sure you might very well know Jason through his book that is Data Means Business. He's This is one masterpiece, I must say. I read it like a few months back, and Jason was kind enough to offer us one giveaway and one print giveaway. So what you guys need to do to enter the raffle, we'll be announcing the winners. You just need to type in hashtag Jason in the comment section, and you will enter this raffle. And by towards the end of the show, we'll be definitely choosing the winner. So it's a very interesting raffle. So feel free to type in hashtag Jason in the comments, and you will be entering the raffle to win Data Means Business. All right, guys. Before I bring in Jason Foster, obviously a little background about him. As I mentioned, he's the co-author of Data Means Business, the go-to book that provides a clear and pragmatic guide for business leaders to help develop their mindset and strategies required to generate value from data and scale quickly. Jason is also a host at the Hub and Spoken podcast, where he covers a wide range of topics on the leadership, culture, technology, change, and strategy associated with data and analytics. Obviously, Jason was also featured in the Data IQ 100 most influential people in data in 2020 and 2021. So a lot of things that we will be talking about today. Obviously, we'll be discussing about his journey, about data strategy, data as a product, data leadership, and much more. So if you guys are excited, let us know where you're joining from, and don't forget to put a hashtag Jason to actually win this book. And trust me, it does have those golden nuggets which every person who loves data need to know. Okay, without any further ado, let's have our guest Jason Foster. Hey Jason, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Hey Ravit, thanks for having me. How you doing?
I am very well, thank you, and thanks
Great.
for offering our folks today the Data Means Business the chance to obviously win this book. It is a golden nugget by you and Barry Green. So can't wait to obviously announce the winners by towards the end of the show. But for those who are joining, again mentioning, and just a small reminder, you can put in hashtag Jason in the comments, and you will enter the raffle. All right, Jason, we'll be talking a lot around data as a product, data leadership, and data strategies. And obviously, we would love to know about your journey, because you've bootstrapped a company altogether. And so we would love to know, but for our audience, why not start with your introduction?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for having me to start with, Ravit, and looking forward to see who gets a copy of the book. Very exciting for somebody and for me to get that across to someone. So yeah, I'm Jason Foster. You gave a great introduction, but my spin on that is I'm the founder and chief exec at a data and analytics strategy company. We help organizations to define and deliver business-facing, business-focused data strategies. I'm the host of a podcast called Hub and Spoken. Sorry, confusing my own different topics there, and where I give some of my thoughts about how to be successful with data. I interview some brilliant people from industry about their stories, about what they're doing. I also lead a members club called the CDO Hub, which is a global members club for senior data leaders, chief data officers to learn together and set the standard of what good data leadership means. And of course, I'm the co-author of the book, Data Means Business, which needs no more introduction because you've done so well for me.
Fantastic. And the title of your book is pretty interesting, Data Means Business. So how do you think business gets value from data? What is your take on that?
Well, I guess the whole premise of investing in data, of spending time with data, is about supporting some positive outcomes that you're trying to achieve within your organization, whether you're a commercial corporate organization, whether you're public sector, helping and supporting society and improving our world, whether you're a not-for-profit or a charity who's looking to create a better world for people, there's an opportunity that data can really add value to the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. Equally, and conversely, I suppose, it can also have a huge detrimental impact on the organization if you don't look after it and nurture it and help do good things with it. So it's a balance, and this whole concept of data means business is both, it means it's about business, it's not about data, it's not about technology, but it also means business. You got to take it serious.
No, yes, definitely. And I agree. Reading the book, I did feel that you have actually bridged that gap between data and business very well. You have actually brought it together, why data is so important, and why actually the title says data means business. So it is very important. And moving on, obviously I would want to know, when I was reading the book, I was very curious to, know which is your favorite chapter in the book. Because before you obviously answer, I know there's a very super cool chapter that I read, which was the second one, getting off the ground, and it kind of spices up things for in the book to go forward, and then you can't obviously not read the book. But which one was your favorite?
Well, it's in 4 parts. I think I like the first part the most. The first part is all about it's the framing. It's the kind of reason we need to think about this differently. It's the thing that helps understand that that we've got to wrap our arms around the problem that's data and do something really positive with it. It's the one that's most about mindset and approach and the way you think about this stuff. The rest of the chapters dip a little bit more into, the whole book's a little bit kind of about how to think and behaviors and culture, rather than a real sort of like how-to guide. But there is some more how-to in sort of part 2, 3, and 4. But yeah, part 1 I really like, and there's some really good sections in there about why it's important to think differently, why the world has changed, and therefore we have to come at this data thing slightly differently than we have for the last sort of 20, 30, 40 years.
Yes, amazing. So these are interesting points, Jason. Thanks for those. Just checking in with the folks who have joined us. Christine is joining us from Chicago. Hi, Christine. Scott Taylor is here. He says, "Is it related to Jason?"
It's my cousin, Scott. He's my cousin.
We have a few more folks. Aditi is here, and yes, folks are actually typing Jason to enter the raffle. We already have, I guess, a few folks, so don't miss this opportunity to learn more about Jason's book, and you might win a print copy. So go ahead and do that. All right, Jason, obviously moving a bit into the leadership side, because today's agenda is obviously to cover the leadership side of the data as well. So what, according to you, are the top skills of a data leader, or what actually they are carrying?
Yeah, data leadership is an interesting topic. It's quite broad, but the idea that someone has responsibility for shaping the strategy for how an organization can really add value to their organization through the application of data is really exciting. I think nearly every organization needs someone who takes that responsibility. Now, that could be a chief data officer, but it equally could be a head of data or a head of analytics or a VP of data science. Whatever the title, what's important is that they help the organization to figure out where the opportunity is and what capabilities they need in order to deliver on that opportunity. And that person, therefore, it's a business role. It's a business leadership role. It's not a technology role. It's not a data role. It's a business leadership role that's responsible for assuring that the data is in a state that can be used, and that data is used for organizational gain, for business benefit, for really positive outcomes to the organization. That's what the data leadership's all about.
Wow, definitely. That makes a lot of sense, Jason. And also, in terms of when I speak about data leadership, there's obviously another thing that comes to my mind is the strategy. And according to you, what is the one thing that a data strategy should include and a leader should have in place, when obviously they already have those skills, but strategy also kind of needs to fit in very well? So
I think any strategy data or business or technology or people, whatever strategy we're talking about, I think it needs to have and data's no different. It needs to have an element of where are we going, why are we going there, what's the value of doing that. But it needs to be baked in pragmatic, actionable stuff so that you can deliver something. So a data strategy is all about really it's about kind of defining what's the opportunity for our organization. So it's about improving customer acquisition? Is it improving our employee well-being? Is it about improving the supply chain of our organization? Is it about the effectiveness, the managing the risk? There's endless list of opportunities that we need to define. It needs to then talk about what are the capabilities we need as an organization to enable us to get those opportunities. And they're across people, they're across culture, they're across literacy, they're across the operating model that we have, the approach we use, the technology we have, the architecture we put in place, the data management practices we have. They're all the capabilities that we need, without which we can't deliver the value. And then also we of course need to have a plan and a roadmap and a kind of like direction of travel that chips away at the improvement. So all that wrapped up for me is what a data strategy is all about. And the most important bit though is knowing why we're doing it and what the value is that we're looking to achieve from it. Because without that, all we're doing really is building capabilities. And what ends up happening if we just build capabilities is we become an expensive cost center that has a whole bunch of data scientists and technologists, but no valuable outcome that people can kind of hang their hat on and say, yeah, we've achieved something here.
No, I think definitely at a leadership standpoint, you need to have that balance in terms of the scales and the strategy. And definitely it makes a lot of sense there. So also quickly wanted to take a question from the audience. I can see George is here and he's happy to see you here. Hey, George, thanks for joining us. So what are the benefits of treating data as a product as opposed to data as a service? Very interesting.
It is, yeah. I mean, so it depends a little bit on what your definition of treating data as a product and data as a service is. So let me start with that, because I think that and as with all definitions, they're up for discussion. But so maybe we unpack this one a little bit before I get to that answering that. So data as a product is about packaging up the data things that you build within an organization and applying those products to a business challenge that you have. And in the same way, if you think about a phone is a physical product, AirPods are a physical product, this glass is a physical product, and that they've existed for a long time. Bread and food and cars and clothes and all these things are physical products. And then roll forward, we had kind of digital products, and digital products are things like the apps. It's things like Spotify and Facebook and StreamYard that we're on. These are digital products, and both physical and digital products, they serve a purpose. They mean something. They deliver some functionality. They deliver some benefit. There's some KPIs and some metrics that track how good they are. Sure. There'll be someone that's responsible for the features and the funds and the performance of those products. So a data product is the same. It's that you can think of it the same. It's a product that you can use that serves a purpose, that adds value, that has features that someone looks after, that you feed and water and make it better and better. And that could be a dashboard that has performance metrics on it. That could be a machine learning algorithm that's a predictive model that's predicting, what a customer might buy next from a retailer after they bought a shirt. So the data product is a manifestation of a bunch of data things, which could be something like a data feed all the way through to a sort of algorithm that serves a purpose and delivers some value. The service in an organization are the things needed in order to make those data products successful. So you may have a data quality service, a service that improves the quality of the data that feeds a data product. So they're different. So it's not versus, it's not data products or data services. It's a combination of those two things that mean you can serve up data, you can serve up solutions, you can serve up outcomes that support business stuff, and that you have that you have services that make the people around this product better at it. So helping someone become more literate in data would be a service that is provided to an organization to help them become better at using data.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, very interesting explanation. And where I see it is obviously a data product is equivalent to data service. We won't obviously differentiate them, but it's like a good combination which can go
Yes.
hand in hand.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it does
exactly.
make
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. And I mean the benefit of doing that over treating data as solutions in the old way, if you like, is that when you treat data as a product itself, you sort of care about it. It becomes a stated, like in a retailer, you'd have a SKU that defines a physical product that you're selling.
Yeah.
It becomes an asset within an organization that someone owns. This is where the role data product manager comes in. It's someone is responsible for ensuring the use of that data product. If it's not used, let's ditch it. Let's not continue to support it and make it better. Let's drop it if it's not used, or let's make it better, or let's enhance it, or let's make improvements to it. Let's keep tracking it and make sure that it's delivering value. So the kind of concept of it being a product means that we treat it like we would like a company would treat any product that they ever have.
Very interesting, Jason. Thanks for those. Nice question, George. Bought a lot of things, and we have two follow-up questions. Would love to take both of them because both are related to each other. Uh, let's take one from the YouTube from Ravina Ostwal. She's asking, "Hey, would love to know how can it help small business owners?" Interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean I suppose it's a concept, right? It's a concept and a way of treating the products that you have, the data product or the solutions that you have and that you build. So, depending on the objectives of a small business or of any business, you would build and shape different sets of data products. So, my business, for example, we have a bunch of data products that help me better understand the performance of my marketing efforts. I have a bunch of data products that help me understand the quality of work and the outputs that the consulting team are delivering. I have metrics that are helping me track engagement with with the communities that I run. So those data products for a relative small or medium business are as important as they are for a large corporate. So I don't see any difference for a small business. I think you just have to be a bit more laser focused with the products that you build when budgets are very finite.
Yeah, I think yes, definitely. I agree 100%, Jason. Thanks for that question, Ravina. And yes, this was very interesting question. Oh, a good follow-up question from Scott. Does the word product confuse business leadership when you say data product?
I love Scott for that question, and I love Scott generally. But I think and he is right about being careful with language. This is really important. And I think as long as you're clear with what you mean by the words you use, it tends not to confuse. I haven't had that problem, Scott. We haven't seen that problem. In fact, it helps to, when you give it in context of physical products and digital products, it helps to explain what we mean by all these things that are being built. I actually find dashboards and algorithms, they find more confusing than data product. We can package everything as a data product and it just puts everything in through the same lens. So then we can talk about what products we have and those products being different shape and size and nature and deliver different value. So actually we find it really helpful rather than confusing.
Wow. That's a great explanation, Jason. Thanks for that. Okay, before I take Manisha's question, definitely because that question is more around the data storytelling, which is obviously another important aspect of data when we talk about data. So, but before that, obviously, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on new concepts like data as a product? Like, how would you define it if for our audience, just if you can simplify, Jason?
Yeah, so I guess it's what I was saying there about data as a product is treating a thing, and I like to use the word thing because it's so general and it helps, whatever you mean by that. It helps take data things and puts them together to create something of value, and the value needs to be focused on some kind of business value. So a data product could be a data feed that you share with your customer, or it could be a data feed that you share with a partner of yours. It could be a dashboard that supports insight into understanding the trading performance of a certain business unit. It could be a predictive model that helps better personalize the experience on the website for someone browsing a website. It could be a demand planning forecasting algorithm that better predicts the requirement for products in different parts of the country and allows us to better allocate where we put our staff and where we put our stock room and where we put our products. So any of those can be data products, and data as a product, it's just saying we're going to treat data in the way that I've explained, in terms of putting some value on it and making sure it's improving and making sure it supports a real business benefit.
Awesome. And I think that definitely answers Sharon's question here. Is it possible to provide data as a product across industries? You just mentioned about, a thing. So definitely in different industries uses different type of data. How do you see it fit into these products that can be used across industries?
Totally. And if you think about, I mean, any digital product really, but if you think about something like, let's have a think. If you think about something like I don't know if people know sort of marketing attribution. So marketing attribution is all about attributing different costs, your marketing costs, to different revenue that's generated within the organization, and then making sure that you're investing your marketing money in the right place. And 5-10 years ago, organizations would build their own data product to understand the marketing attribution within their marketing department. Now someone has created that as an actual product, and you really would buy marketing attribution now. So it's gone from a sort of almost in development kind of concept and product that people have built internally, and it's become a product that can be used universally across all industries that have multiple marketing channels. So I think anything where there's consistency between industries. So if we're looking at products, if we're looking at customers, if we're looking at people, if we're looking at optimization, any of these things can become quite general products that can be applied in lots of different industries. And actually, that's the really great thing about, data is a horizontal in organizations, and most organizations have very similar, conceptually at least, similar challenges. So you can repeat, fixing of these problems in multiple industries in very similar ways.
Very interesting. That definitely answers for Sharon. Thanks for that question, Sharon. Obviously, for those who are just joining us, a quick reminder that we are giving away Data Means Business book by Jason and Barry Green. So feel free to put a hashtag Jason in the chat. I'll just let you guys know. Okay, we have 19 folks who have already are up for the raffle. So we'll be announcing the winners by end of the show. It's a very jazzy type of giveaway. Jason, you might like it, and I'm sure you might use it going further in your podcast too.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Yes. So let's take Manisha's question. Don't want to miss this. It's interesting. Great chat, Jason and Ravit. Can you share two great qualities one should possess for data storytelling?
I guess let's have a think. You need to be able to paint a picture. I don't know if that's too obvious for data storytelling. You need to be able to paint a picture and excite people.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. It's kind of about taking, here's an example I used recently. So that helps answer this. So if you imagine you're selling some products or services, and you go to see one of your customers, and you sit down and you say, how many of those red widgets do you want to buy? And the buyer looks at you and says, I don't know, how many do you think I should buy? Or I don't want to buy any this month. Or how many do other people buy? And you end up in a dialogue about what the person should buy. But if you imagine you go to that meeting as a seller of some products, and you paint a picture for that buyer about the market conditions, about what competitors are doing, about what customers are buying, about what's doing well, what's doing badly. Before you even talk about what products to buy, you just paint the picture about what the opportunity in that space is, and then we start talking about recommending the different products that they might buy to satisfy that demand. That becomes a story that's been told. And data storytelling, I think, is quite similar in that really what you're doing is trying to paint a picture that helps a business colleague, a person within the organization, to better understand the situation that they exist in, whether something's getting worse, whether something's getting better, whether there's some good opportunity, bad opportunity, whether the forecast is down or up. It's about painting a picture of what the person who's listening needs to understand. And if you can paint that picture, that creates really good storytelling. There's a whole bunch of functional stuff, like, you know, be able to be good at drawing, build good dashboards, know the difference in how people interact with color. But I really think it's about stepping away from the detail of data and helping to paint the picture of what the message that you're trying to get across. I hope that answers some of that.
No, I think this is fantastic explanation there. Painting a picture is so important because you are actually playing around with the effects around, and you are actually talking about the factors and putting the story together. And obviously, the data kind of fits in very well once you kind of plot the story and the factors out. You are actually painting the picture, so it does make a lot of sense. Thanks for that, Jason.
Just numbers. Just numbers and graphs are really difficult for many people. Some people consume it well, but it needs the context, and I think giving context to the situation helps paint that picture. So yeah, it's I hope that helps.
Yes, definitely. Let's take a question from Atul Kumar around data as a service. Data as a product, sorry. Will the bigger organizations adapt this approach of data as a product as compared to the approach of a data as a service? How will it have impact on current data management practice? Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, and it comes a little bit back to the difference between the two. But I think more generally, will bigger organizations adapt it? Like with any change, it needs someone who can shape the change and drive the change and adapt the culture so that people work in that way, and there's lots that needs to come into that. I mean, interestingly, kind of linking that to data management, something like data mesh, a more sort of recent concept, which is really in its infancy, and Scott Taylor, I'm sure, will hate it because it's a new buzzword for the industry, but actually it hits on this point really well, which is that the way you treat data, the way you manage your data, can really transform the way in which you get value from it. And if we can treat data in a way that services the needs of the operations of the business and the needs of the kind of analytics of the business, this idea of data as a product really sort of comes together nicely, because you ensure through data management that you have your data structured and set up in a way that is good for operations and good for systems talking to each other and good for the way we need to operate and run the business day to day. But it's also able to serve and satisfy the hundreds and maybe thousands of data products that we need in order to satisfy the kind of the enhancements, the kind of the accelerated firepower that data can give. So that's where I see it. And actually, yeah, just bigger organizations changes, 10x harder or 100x harder depending on the size. So there are always going to be challenges there. But I don't, I think if people buy into this idea that instead of siloed solutions being built, different technologies being brought in different parts of the business to solve the same problems, multiple definitions of what we mean by revenue and cost and these sorts of things. If people buy into improving that for an organization, whatever the size, I think you can really drive. Forward this idea of data as a product.
Yes, makes great sense to Atul. Definitely great question, Atul. Thanks for that. And Scott Taylor did mention I'm all for that, no matter what you call it. So yes, but it kind of helps a lot of folks here when you explain obviously data as a product and service. So amazing. It kind of clears for Mohammed. Nice. Thanks for joining, Mohammed. We have an interesting question from a consumer standpoint, and it's from Christine. How can data products avoid the pitfalls of market saturation? Currently, there are many data products available to consumer. How can a consumer unfamiliar with services related to data products know what service is best?
I'm not. I think I need a bit more explanation on that one. Let me try and unpick it a bit. So I think by market saturation and data products, I think you might be referring to the different tools and technologies out there. So things like Tableau and Talend and Alteryx, and I think that's what you're referring to there. And I suppose what I'm talking about, I think what I'm talking about, that they're sort of tools and technologies required in order to build the kind of data products that I'm talking about. So the data products that I'm talking about are really mini applications beneficial to an individual organization to solve the specific challenges that they have. So So they're sort of slightly different in that way, and I guess the same can be said about market saturation. If you have too many of the same data product within within the four walls of an organization, then you end up with other challenges of, normally multiple definitions of the same metric, or duplication of effort, or lack of efficiency in how data's managed and data's moved around. So I think that's where the way I'd answer that is to ensure that we've got a good kind of approach. I often call it operating model for how we collect requirements and build, implement changes to data management practices and build data products.
Mm-hmm. That, yeah, definitely. It was a bit different question, though. The products which you are explaining here are important. Okay, let's take a question from Harpreet Sahota, the host of Artist of Data Science. Good to see you, Harpreet. When it comes to developing a data strategy for an organization, which approach would be would
I love
be
it.
most effective? Top down, bottom up?
I love that question. Absolutely love it. The answer is it needs to be both. It has to be both. And what I mean by that is it's kind of a pincer movement, right? You've got a top down helps you shape the business reason for doing data. It helps you shape the what you align your data strategy to. It helps you say, well, these things are important to the business, therefore these things are important to what we do with data. So that's what top down tends to give you. Sometimes actually you have to get that if you by talking bottom up, but that's maybe another story. Bottom up gives you the kind of roots and branches of the organization. It's where the stuff is really happening, and it's where the challenges and the detail of the problems are really occurring. And we have to look at it both ways. We have to look at it both ways, and we have to bring those two things together. So when we help an organization shape a data strategy, we're looking for broad understanding of how data challenges are manifesting themselves within an organization. We're looking for top-down understanding of what the business strategy is and the kind of things that are important to the organization, so that we can align the kind of data strategy and the data products that we build to it. But we're talking bottom-up to understand the real challenges at a sort of almost grassroots level. But importantly, start getting the buy-in. The problem with top-down only or bottom-up only is buy-in. That's really the main problem. You can miss some things for sure, but actually the real big problem is this idea of buy-in. And if you just talk, if you just do top down, it can feel to most people like it's being done to them. If you just do bottom up, you miss the important buy-in that you need at a senior business leadership level, that really helps you to give you the resources, really the people and the money that you need in order to get things done. So data strategy needs to be top down and bottom up. And the important bit is sort of making sure it comes together in the middle somewhere.
I think that was a super cool question, and I know, Jason, you've played a little safe here, but it does make sense by end of the obviously your answer, that there needs to be two approaches for a data strategy organization. They need to be in place, and they need to understand why top down or bottom up works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that is, well, you can look at it as, it's not a safe answer. It's a effective and safe way of delivering a data strategy, though. So we have built top down, or asked to deliver top down data strategies before. We've not been given access to the leadership for a bottom up strategy. Neither works very well. That's just my experience of doing this for a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of organizations. But yeah, it's important. Sometimes you might sort of dial up one versus the other depending on the culture of the business, but you always need to have both to make it effective.
Very cool. Thanks for that explanation, Jason. It does make a lot of sense, and I'm sure there are many folks who would be actually getting the answer when we talk about top down or bottom up, because most of the leaders, obviously, they have a different approach. They might tilt towards one, but this is a super cool approach where you say both matters a lot. And okay, let's move on. Obviously, I can see a very interesting question from Brandon. Okay, let's take his question, then move on to your podcast and what you do there. So
Cool.
Brandon has a question. He says, "How important are designer roles in data teams? We
Mm.
hear about the data engineer, data scientist, and analyst personas, but not much on UI, UX design,
Yeah.
design thinking, etc." What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Also a great question, which I love. So I think the idea behind so I think it's really important, right? So let me sort of answer the first part of that. Design for all sorts of reasons and all sorts of angles, you given some good examples there, is really important. The reason that particularly things like UI, UX, design thinking is important, as is equally, solution and data design, data design roles, data architects, solution architects, enterprise architects who tend to design things. The reason why all those things are important, and if they're done well, the reason they're important is because they start with the end in mind. They start with the thing you're trying to achieve. They start with the outcome and work back to the data. So design thinking is all about putting yourself in the shoes of your customer's customer, and it's understanding, what's the real need, the real problem, the real challenge, and then working back to, well, what can we do to solve it? What data product can we build? What data do we need in order to build at? Right? How good is that data? And then let's go on the path of creating it. And the same with UI UX. UI UX is all about saying, what's the best way that we need to interact with this thing? And that could be a dashboard, that could be a web page, that could be an application. UX UI thinks about the experience of the person interacting with that screen and make sure that they design for that, not necessarily the other way, which is designing for the functionality it needs to serve. Because 20 years ago, the systems were designed for the functionality it needs to serve, and I'm sure people here are still using some very clunky looking screens to order purchase orders and get invoices raised and things like that. But you can flip this around and think about it with the end in mind and work back, and that's my most preferred route and the one that tends to work the best. And therefore, so design roles for me are great. They have to be hand in hand, though. This isn't about saying design role is better than doing role. This is about there's a point in time that you need each of these skills, and I think design and thinking with the end in mind is super important.
Very cool. That definitely answers for Brandon. Nice question, Brandon. Thanks for that answer, Jason. Okay, let's talk about your podcast, Hub and Spoken. I was just gonna ask that question, but Harpreet actually beat me on that, which is, what's the hardest part of being a podcast host?
Oh, blimey. I don't know. I love being a podcast host. I must say that it's I quite like being the other side for a change, to be honest, Ravit, as well. This is quite nice.
Wow.
But I don't know. I think it's not really, we don't particularly find it hard per se, but I'm always conscious of and thinking of and making sure I'm focusing on how do I add most value to the audience. Yes. And how do we not just put on stage people that are sort of well tried and tested, but people have real stories. They've gone through real problems. They've tried to fix some real things. They've got some great stories to tell, and they're normally hidden within organizations. You got to sort of seek them out. And then just consistency. What we started out with was making sure that we just turn up, keep going, keep turning up, keep being there. We went from quite sporadic kind of release of podcasts. We now do one a week every Thursday. We've got some really cool stuff coming up, which I can talk about in a sec. And we found just being consistent is hard. Consistency is hard. And there's times where you go, is this as important as we want? And should we, dial back a bit? But no, consistency, I think it's really important. Actually, it's true for anything that you want to turn into a good thing, consistency. But I've not been asked that question before. Thanks for that, Harpreet.
Yes, thanks for that question, Harpreet. Yes, consistency, definitely. Being a podcast host, I can actually, say consistency is something that is the hardest thing to, keep on. But I think if you have that consistency, you tend to grow, and it also the value, as you mentioned, is another very important aspect when we are having not only the time that we both are investing, but also those who are actually joining us, and if those answers are kind of being answered. And that's one of the reasons why I always love to take most of the questions that come in. And that reminds me, obviously, to take another question from the audience, which is about your book. And I don't know, everyone's around what are the toughest things or the hardest, the most challenging things. So let's take this one, Aditi Kinvasra's question
Yep.
about what is the most challenging part while writing a book?
Well, the most challenging part for me was probably finding the right combination of creativity, quiet space in my house with my crazy family running around behind me, the right amount of coffee, and the right amount of time.
Wow.
And if you try and think of parts of your life where you've got those things perfectly aligned, then you'll know how hard it is to find it. That was the hardest thing. So sometimes you had, the creativity was there and you knew what you wanted to write, but you didn't have the time and space to do it. Sometimes I had the time, but I just couldn't think of the words to write. Sometimes I was kind of motivated, but my brain just wasn't tuned in, so I didn't have enough coffee. So it was the combination of those things was the hardest bit. Actually, the process of what I wanted to write, what value I wanted it to deliver, who I thought the audience was, what kind of message I wanted to give, what words I wanted to say, macro level was all relatively straightforward. It didn't quite fall off the page, but it's definitely getting that right, perfect scenario. I wrote most of it in lockdown as well, so we also had the kind of the weight of being at home a lot, the family at home, homeschooling. There's a lot of sort of early mornings, late nights, weekends. I run a very fast growing business as well, so it was tough to get that. But I very fortunate to have a good family and a very good team around me that helped me get over that challenge. So very, very grateful.
Yes, and definitely the masterpiece came out, and it's actually been the talk of the town. So for those who are joining us late, and which book you were wondering, we were talking was about Data Means Business, and we are also giving away print copy today. So we'll be announcing the winners towards the end of the show, and we are very close. So folks who haven't actually mentioned hashtag Jason in the comments, don't forget to do that. All right, moving a bit. I know you are a member of CDO Hub. Can you tell us more about the hub, Jason?
Yeah, so I'm more than a member. I created the CDO Hub something like 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, and it was born out of the lack of sort of home and space for what was a relatively new and emerging position and people in those positions to properly sit back and relax and talk about the craft, talk about what it should be like, talk about what it is like, talk about how we get better at it. And it was kind of there were quite a few events and sort of expos that happened where people go and watch people on stage talking about it. But you can't really interact, you can't really get dialogue with that person. There might be one or two questions. And what we found and talking, we tested this with people and the concept with people. What we found is what people really wanted or enjoyed most about those big conferences was the coffee break where they bumped into their industry peers. So we were like, let's create that. We're going to create basically the coffee break of big events and put it as something that was always on. So we have a regular. So it's for senior data leaders in the kind of chief data officer. You have to be responsible for the data strategy, setting the data strategy or implementing the data strategy to sort of qualify. So it's not for everyone. And we meet on a regular basis, a monthly basis now. During much of lockdown, we met every fortnight. There's a Slack channel and group where discussion happens as well. And essentially, it's about everyone's on a level. There's no keynotes at any of the meetups that we put on. It's really framing a discussion, breakout groups, and talking about the craft that is data leadership and how we move it forward, how we make it better. And how we progress and improve the sort of what good data leadership looks like. So that's what it's all about. We've got about 250 members worldwide. We have a specific US chapter that's led by Jennifer Agnes. She's based on the East Coast, but she runs it across the US. And then we have an everywhere else chapter that's for the rest of the world, rest of Europe. And it's great fun. So that's what it's all about. And I love it. It's the giving back, right? So we don't charge a fee for people. That the cost is people's contribution. We don't take sponsorship, so there's none of the vendors there sort of pitching our own my own business. Yeah, my own business doesn't try and sell services to the people that come to it or the people that engage with it. This is just about giving back to the community and making sure that data leadership is really strong, because the value it can deliver to the world is great. So we want to make sure it's achieved. So yes, there's that link, but also you can cdohub.com as well is the easier link to have a look at it.
Fantastic. I will share definitely with those folks who have joined us. And cool. 250 members is huge. You said around 4 years back you started?
Something like that, yeah. The CDO
Amazing.
Hub, yeah.
I think a long way that you've reached. And I'm sure. So what's the next plans at CDO Hub? How do you see it? Do you want to host a conference just for the members, or are you good with the meetups? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. We're just looking at that at the moment. Since we started, there's quite a few other communities. So some that are run by some of the vendors, some that are run by independents, some that are run by recruiters. So there are a few that are around now, and I think that's all really good. I think that's good that there's opportunity for people to interact with different groups in a different context, in a different way. Again, we just want to be consistent. We just want to show up. We want this platform to be there for people. We're opening it up to, it used to be just UK, then we opened up national and then international. So we're going to keep that going. We're going to move back to physical, because we took this all online, as lots of people did. We're starting to dial up physical meetups again. First one in London. Every year we do a Christmas party for the CDO Hub. So we're doing our Christmas party physical in London in December. We're considering a bigger what I call unconference, which is a conference that is completely the opposite of how they normally work. It's all attendee driven agenda. So we only talk about the things that are important to people, not what we think is important to people. That we may do that as well. And just drive interaction, drive engagement, make sure it's supporting people's personal and professional development.
I think it's a fantastic way to give it back to the community, and definitely a lot of value in, I think, with the best leaders around the data strategy or the data leaders across the world. There's so much value that maybe these meetups might create, and after, obviously, once the knowledge is being poured out, it goes long way. And thanks for that answer, Jason, about CDO and what CDO Hub would be doing in the future. But not forgetting about Cynozure, where you work, you are the CEO. So tell us more about it. What are the future plans for Cynozure? What do you guys do? And more about it.
Yeah, brilliant. So I suppose my day job, if you like, is running. Apart from all these other things I've talked about, is ensuring that we deliver the best service we possibly can through Cynozure. We're a data and analytics strategy company. We help organizations to both define and deliver their sort of data strategies. So there's a whole bunch of advisory services in there where we help organizations to figure out what this data thing means, what the opportunity is. We help them define and set their data strategy that links and aligns to their business strategy. Then we have some services where we support the implementation of those strategies. So we build technology solutions end-to-end, ingestion and data platforms, data science, dashboards, sort of end-to-end technology platforms. But importantly, and where you really get the success is in the business implementation side of ensuring an organization is able and capable of getting value out of data. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there around change and culture and their operating model, and literacy. So we support end-to-end an organization thinking, planning, and execution across the public sector, private sector, and the not-for-profit sector.
Super cool. And I know how Cynozure obviously has bootstrapped from start. I've obviously read in articles about the interviews. So can you tell us a little about it, Jason?
Yeah.
What was the early journey of Cynozure?
Yeah, it's kind of, I suppose, fairly classic sort of startup, really. I left a 20-year career in industry and in consulting as well. So I was, before I set up the business, I worked and ran data at Marks and Spencer, the UK HQ'd retailer, £10 billion turnover company. I ran data and did a whole bunch of interesting, exciting stuff there, building central data capability and a whole bunch of digital and loyalty products and where data was at the heart of them. And I left there and literally sat down on my kitchen table in January 2016 and thought, look, I want to create an agency, a consultancy that I would have wanted to exist when I was at M&S, that I wanted to bring in, that I didn't feel at the time did exist. The ball got rolling from there really, and we won. Our first client was Soho House, the sort of global private members club. They have about 10 different businesses, from cinemas to restaurants to private members clubs to workplaces to all sorts of stuff, and it was all focused around how do we understand our customer and serve up digital platforms and better engagement with them to drive sort of interaction and drive acquisition and drive retention of the customer base and things like that. And then it grew from there, and we've been going just over 5 years. We've grown, triple digits every year since we started. COVID was really interesting in that it accelerated people's view of the necessity for wrapping their arms around data and really having good visibility and predictability about what's happening, and that helped to support our growth as well during sort of COVID years. That's the sort of whistle stop story. You mentioned bootstrapped. That just means that I didn't take any investment. We're fully private. I haven't taken any funding. That we're organic growth. So everything we make, we put back into the business to grow it and support. The things like the podcast and things like the CDO hub. Give me time and space to write the book and stuff like that. So we love it. We love what we do. It's all focused around helping organizations to deliver value, business value out of data. And we do that sort of as a full service.
And you are doing it very well for the community, definitely, Jason. So inspirational story there. I just wanted the audience to, just get that feeling from where you're coming and just understand the journey. So thanks for that story. And yes, about the CDO hub, I think Scott is mentioning that let him know about if it's happening in NYC or CD. He'll be
now I'm allowed. Now Biden's let us fly, Scott. I'll be over there. I'll be over there soon. I think mid-November is the shackles have been taken off, so I'm sure we'll get over there soon.
Awesome! Can't wait to see the photos. Definitely. So moving on, obviously, there's an interesting question about conferences that I wanted to touch base on. Do you attend conferences? Yes, I saw you attending the big London conference somewhere. Maybe. So do you like attending conferences, and which is your favorite one?
I don't think I have a favorite, but I like attending for a few reasons. So I often talk at events as a keynote or a breakout speaker, sharing our lessons from working with hundreds of organizations on this stuff, latest sort of thinking and latest practical ways of doing things like data strategy and building data platforms and data ops and all these great things that are needed in order to get this done. So yes, I love talking at them, as do a lot of my team. I love attending. I like to see what other organizations are doing. I like to keep an eye actually on what the technology vendors are saying, because they have the marketing bucks in this space, and therefore the messages that they give do permeate their way through to end user organizations. So I like to make sure I'm clear on what the vendors are saying and how practical and true those things are, so that we can better advise our customers on what they should be listening to and what's true and what's not and what's important. I don't think I have a best one. There's certainly some event companies that put on a better show than others, but no, I don't think I have a preferred, to be honest.
Fantastic. But yes, it makes a lot of sense when you say that you use it to actually upgrade yourself or upskill yourself in what's changing in the technology and what the vendors are actually saying. So thanks for that answer. It's time we announce our winner. Let's see who won the Data Means business. Are you ready, Jason? Let's do this cool.
Do I have to do anything?
Nope. It's just on my button here.
Awesome.
This is the cool stuff. Let's see who the winner is.
We need a drum roll.
Drum roll. All right, the winner is Panaram Tak.
Ah,
Pana,
congratulations.
congratulations. You win. Data means business. I'll reach out to you with and ask you for your address. So be ready to learn a lot and enjoy the book, because definitely if you are a avid reader, you won't take more than 2 days or more than even a day. You'll just complete it, because it's very clear when how Jason and Barry has actually put together data and business and how they have actually aligned it together, and that's why data means business. Okay, one last quick question before we wrap this up, Jason. How did you think of this name, data means business?
It was one of those. So originally, the book was going to be called Level Up. So in the
Level
book, we
up.
talk about a framework that we have called the Level Up framework, and it was all about how you, and the concept is how you increase, how you level up, how good you are at deploying
Hmm.
data for business value. We decided it wasn't clear enough what we meant. The proposition wasn't strong enough, so it was just one of those, kicked around some ideas between me, Barry, and the
Hmm.
publisher, and we talked about, it's about data, it's about business. Only those things mean the same thing. Data means, and we ended up with data means. But we're not quite. We've talked about it. We're not quite sure who came up with it out of the three of us. We think it was a combined effort, but that we liked it because it without reading the book, you've got an idea of what the book's about, right? Without
Right.
having to say too many words. So we landed on that. We loved it, and yeah, we've been shouting about it ever since. So.
Yes, definitely. For those
And I must
who,
say, it came out. Sorry, one other thing, Rabbit. I did need to say
yeah,
it came
sure.
out on audio book 2 weeks ago, so you
Wow.
can get it on any of the. I think there's something like 60 different audio platforms you can download it from. Audible being the kind of the big boy here, so that's the one where most people are getting it from. But so you can listen to me and Barry. We recorded it
Amazing.
ourselves, so you can listen to us narrating the book if that's better for you than reading.
Amazing. Did you actually go dubbing and all of those things? How much time did that take,
Yeah,
Jason?
we recorded Secrets of the Profession. It took I don't know, 3 days between us
Wow, that's
to
fantastic.
record. Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
So this was it, Jason. Just a last question for our audience. If they want to reach out to you, if they have questions around data as a product or about data leadership, where can they reach out to you?
Yep. Get me on LinkedIn, obviously. So Jason Foster. I'm on Twitter as at Mr. Jason B Foster.
Mhm.
Or you can find Cynozure, Hub and Spoken, or CDO Hub on both those platforms as well.
Awesome, Jason. Can't wait to obviously have that 2.0 version when we have some more developments happening in Cynozure, CDO, your podcast, and
Love
we'll
to.
definitely chat more about different things. But thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Jason.
Really
Take care.
appreciate it. Thanks,
Have a
Robert, and
nice
thanks
day.
to everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay.